I'm Joe Markley, State Senator from Southington, and we're here to talk a little bit more about a subject that I've been involved with really because of my friend Len Suzio's uh, attention to the subject, which is the early release program. And as I think a lot of you know, some changes have been made over the last couple of years to this program by the legislature last year. We hear that there's more proposals coming to change it to try to limit the credits that are given based on risk. Also, the fact that we're promised that the reports which are overdue are going to be made. And I think that the reason that I'm happy to introduce Len here today is because I honestly believe that it's been because of Len's advocacy that we've made progress in trying to improve what was a dangerously flawed program, which remains, in my opinion, a program that puts the public at risk. And I think that it's only by keeping the heat on and keeping attention on what's going on that any progress has been made or there's been any willingness to consider changes in it. So Len has some particular concerns that he wanted to voice, and also some new information about what the effect of this program has been on public safety. And for that reason, I will turn it over to my longtime friend and former state senate colleague and champion of this public safety of these public safety concerns, Len Suzio.
Thank you, Joe. Thanks very much. Thank you, Senator Markley. About 4 years ago, I started on what I can only describe as a mission to either abolish or significantly reform the so-called early release law. And the catalyst for that, more than anything else, was the cold-blooded murder of an elderly and innocent store owner in Meriden, which occurred about 4 blocks from where I live. I saw up close and personal the tragedy experienced by the family of Ibrahim Ghazal, and that motivated me more than ever to try to do something about this terribly flawed law that I think has resulted in needless suffering and crime being committed in Connecticut. So for 4 years now, I've been lobbying the legislature, trying to get things changed. And last year, after nearly 4 years of violent criminal activity committed by early release convicts after their discharge from prison, the legislature finally acted to do something to address the situation. In Public Act 15-216, the legislature expanded the list of crimes ineligible for early release. Prior to that, only 6 crimes in Connecticut are ineligible for early release, and they added 2 more crimes, including first-degree manslaughter and aggravated sexual assault on a minor. In addition, the revisions to the new law prohibit criminals who are characterized as persistent dangerous felony offenders or persistent dangerous sex offenders from eligibility to earn credits. Now just stop and think for a second. For 4 years, we had on the books a law that allowed criminals who are considered to be persistent dangerous sex offenders and persistent dangerous felony offenders to be eligible to get out of prison early. This, to me, is a disgrace and underscores how reckless the law was in the first place. Aside from the couple of modest additions to the restrictions on who can get early release credits, the legislature did go and mandate that the Department of Correction file quarterly reports to commence no later than January 1st of 2016. The reports are to contain information about the number of inmates released and the number released early as a result of risk reduction earned credits, the criminal convictions of released inmates, the amount of credits earned by inmates released early, and the recidivism data on early release convicts, including re-entry rates into prisons, time between the release and return to prison, and criminal convictions that resulted in the return to prison. Today, more than 1 month past the deadline, the absolute deadline for submitting the first report, no report has yet to be submitted to the legislature. And as everyone knows, the legislature convenes tomorrow, and it will be a short session. The urgency of the matter is attested to by the daily crimes committed by criminals who have been graduated from the program. Murder and rape are not uncommon, unfortunately, crimes that are committed by these early release criminals. And the question is, why has the DOC flaunted the legislative mandate? Is it trying to cover up the startling list of crimes committed by criminals supposedly reformed by their participation in the early release program? Is it trying to protect the architect of the law, Mike Lawler, or even the governor himself? Well, since the DOC hasn't complied with the law, we obtain the criminal records from the DOC itself. We have records for all the criminals released from prison since September of 2011. We obtained that via a Freedom of Information Act request. So today I'll share with you some of the little tidbits that we've learned from examining the records of over 35,000 prisoners who have been released since that time. In the 50 months since the early release law was implemented in September of 2011 through the end of October 2015, 100 early release discharged criminals have been readmitted to prison charged with murder or homicide or manslaughter. In addition, since the first 50 months have passed, almost 400 sexual assaults have been charged against early release graduates as well. You know, that I've heard that there's a war on women. Well, there's no doubt that this law is a war on women. And it was passed by the Democratic-controlled legislature with the support of the governor. Anyone with any common sense would realize that hardened criminals with sexual violence as part of their history have a high degree of recidivism. And the numbers that we're seeing in the cases that we've examined in the DOC data that were provided to us under the Freedom of Information Act show us that there is a high number of crimes of sexual violence being committed against women by these convicts who went through the program. As of November 1st, 2015, about one-third of the convicts in the jurisdiction of the DOC were convicts who had been discharged early because of RECs, early release credits, and then recommitted a crime and are back into the prison system. You know, the statistics, by the way, related to the program, unfortunately, are confined only to those prisoners or inmates who have been discharged from prison. The statistics don't include any information related to prisoners who are released by the DOC, and that is a critical distinction. The prisoners that are discharged are effectively those who have reached the end of their sentence after the application of the risk reduction credits. Released criminals who are released on parole into the community are not counted or even measured by the DOC in terms of recidivism statistics. And ironically, the mandate from the legislature doesn't deal with that. It's definitely one thing I would urge the legislature to consider is embracing not only the criminals who have been discharged from prison, but those who have been released from prison on parole into the community. Because there's a high incidence, we know, of crime being committed by those folks as well. About 31,000 inmates were discharged 36,500 times in the 50 months in the DOC data. Obviously, there are thousands of criminals who are recommitting crime and coming back into the system. About 97% of the discharged prisoners received risk reduction credits in the data that we examined. So I think there's good cause for the legislature to take another serious look at the program and end it, at least insofar as sexual crimes are concerned. Only 2 forms of rape are basically ineligible for participation in the program. But if you look at Connecticut statutes, from what I've been able to determine, there's over 12 different types of sexual crimes committed against women, and only 2 of them are prohibited from getting early release credits. Statistics are a cold way to deal with the law, especially a dangerous law, and I think it's much more effective to put a personal face on it. Standing to my immediate right is Fabio Gazal, whose father, Ibrahim Gazal, was murdered in cold blood back in 2012 by Frankie the Razor Resto, who had been released, I should say discharged from prison because of early release credits 199 days early. And as a result of that, he accosted Fabio's father and murdered him in cold blood. And I wanted to give Fabio a few minutes to put a personal face and share his family story with you regarding a horrendous crime committed by someone who graduated from the early release program. Fabio?
Good afternoon. My name is Fabio Gazal, and I'm from Jordan. I'm so sorry, I want to speak in my heart. I would like to thank Senator John Markley for having me here. Thank you, sir. I want to thank my everything now for me in Connecticut, former Senator Thank you, sir. Because I'm sorry because my English is not that good, so please excuse me. Because Senator Markley and Senator Joe, I'm sorry, Senator, I'm so sorry, former Senator Silvio and Senator Markley, the only people that was from me and from my family for almost 4 years. And I'm sorry, Senator. I'm sorry, former Senator Susie, because I call you too much, and you always. I'm so sorry. Serious. It's like in my heart. My wife, she's here. My daughter, she's here. My co-writer, he's here. I'm so sorry because I want to speak in. Okay, my father was murdered 4 years ago. 4 years has done nothing to listen. The pain. It hurts every bit as much as the day it happened. My father, who I loved with everything he was taken from me and from my family. Sadly, without warning, there was nothing to prepare us for what was to come to sign that things. We're about to change this is like for me forever. The day he was murdered, he was working as the gas station that he only recently come to own like he did every day. My father was proud to finally own his business after, I think, 35 years. He spent nearly 30 years. He was proud to be in America, and he's proud to be American. Just as his dream finally come to be true, it was quickly ended for not only him, but for our family as well. He was killed by a name named Frank Risto, who not long before that was in jail for committing violent crimes. He was released from jail earlier than he was supposed to be because of this program that has been talked about today. The early release program, he was violent man and he was allowed back on the street to commit more violent crimes. This man destroyed my life and the life of my family. We used to be close family. Now we are just like strangers who happen to share the same blood. Frank Risto should have been in the prison. And if he had been, my father would still be alive today. To play with his grandkids and to give me the fatherly advice that he was always good for. But he's not restored. He not just killed one person that day. He killed 8 people. Our souls died with him. To the people I say, for all people, wake up. Every day there are laws that are passed in this state. Yeah, and like a lot of people, they told me, you immigrant, you not scared to say that. No, I don't care. Because we are gone now. The reason I come here, I don't want anybody feel what we feel. We done. I wanna for more safe people. I don't wanna just the people they just what you're talking about? No. Early release program killed my father. About what this guy he did good thing to give him a credit. Even this thing is not in the third world country. They not do this for. He's a criminal. We give him a credit to go to kill people. I think to save money. So we save money to kill people. Every day there are laws that as passed in the state that affect you. You may not realize, you may not think. So, but one day you find yourself waking up to horrible family tragedy that you will never fully heal. If you put yourself in my shoes, just think about it for everyone. Think about it for just 1 minute, 5 minutes. We aren't safe. We are with this program. We are not unsafe. We'll see that need for this program to the end. All it's doing is allowing violent people to second chance to destroy more people's lives. L'incisio, I don't want to say that. I want to speak in my. Even he was very mad in me because we was talking like 3 days ago, and he said, "Why you want to say they're gonna think about politician?" No, I don't care about politician. I'm American. I'm proud to be American. I'm talking about person. I know him for 4 years. The only one I contact with him and with Senator John Markley. Nobody care. Unfortunately, nobody care. It's the people, they have like very cold heart. They think, what he talking about? What does it mean early release program? Yeah, forget about it. We're just gonna go have fun. Yeah. L'incisio, he was there for me when not many other people were. He had me and my family and my kids, my wife, to his house. My kids who had just lost their real grandfather found not a replacement, but someone who helped fill the void in their hearts. Without him, my story and my father's story would never have been told. Nobody would return my phone calls. I tried to get answer except him and except Mr. John Markley. I'm very grateful for them. Also, now I'm writing a book about the death, about my experience in the United States, about my experience in like 15 years. And my co-writer, his name is Dave Corman. He's with me right now. And thank you, Dave, because you did good job so far. Should be ready to the next, the early release program. And Len Suzio and Joe Markley begin in my life will be a very big part in the story. However, that is not the only reason I'm writing this book. I want to shed light, and please, this is very, even I don't say to, I'm sorry to say that, I don't say I'm gonna say that, but I'm gonna say it because it's very important. Another, when the events leading up to my dad's murder, my dad with his best friend, same nationality, my father best friend, paid my father, he paid nearly $200,000 or more. And I have the check, all the checks is here. To pay his business. He paid 3 separate checks to this gentleman, not gentleman, I'm sorry, to this guy, to own his gas station. My father, he no received no bail cell, no, they not do with my father any agreement, nothing at all. 20 days later, my dad got killed. I think this makes sense, yeah? But I cannot tell more because I don't gonna be sued. He was murdered and the business was taken from us. And this is now our family house is empty. This is where we was sit, the 4th chair, me and my mom and my brother. Again, please, because this is very important for me. So my dad, he paid the 3 separate check. And after 20 days, my father got killed. And after that, they kick us from the gas station. Unfortunately, even when I spoke with the media about it, they not focus on it. They just focus about Frank Risto. Why? Even I read all the document from the investigation. No, they not ask the former owner why my father, he purchased the business without contract. Why? I would thank Senator Markley and Senator Suzio for support my book. Along, they have give me a lot of good things. Please, I'm gonna introduce my best doctor, my best friend, Dr. Rick. Thank you for coming, Dr. Rick. Thank you, sir. Please support this change in the law. Thank you for listening to me, and God bless. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Fabio. I know it's running a little bit late, so I'll provide a few minutes for questions for anybody who would like to question anything. Christine?